I like to think that the Western Isles are basically a different portion of the game because, like, you're leaving that early game and now you're coming into Western Isle material, right? So you're talking about Roy is finally usable because everybody has axes in the Western Isles, and it's you get some interesting units here. You get some pretty
Yeah,
cool units.
yeah, I agree. I also find Roy useful in Chapter 4 for just leaving dents in the Cavaliers. But yeah, I agree. You know, he gets a little bit more use here. It's a great level up chapter for Rutger and the soon to be recruited Fear. Or for, how do you pronounce it?
I think it's fur,
Fur?
fur or
'Cause I've
fear.
heard it called both.
Yeah, I've heard it too. I think it's fur, but
All right, we can go with Fur. That's how I originally pronounced it, but then heard Fear, so Fur works.
so I mean, I'm gonna be aggressive here. Why do you even use fur if you have Rutger? Like, I just want to know. I saw you doing it on your Iron Man run, and I was like, man, does he really just like sword masters that much, or is there something that I'm missing here that I don't know?
Really a couple reasons. Fear and Rutger, I don't remember the exact stats, but they give each other avoid and crit. So when they're near each other, they're basically an unstoppable machine. When they're both sword masters and the support is maxed out, it gives them around like 78 to 82% crit, which is enough to do it consistently. You know, as a lot of us already know, the HP of enemies in the Binding Blade gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
Normal units can break the rules. You know, you have Wyverns with 66 HP when the cap for players is 60.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I just need the damage. I just need them to crit on each attack so that I can take out those Wyverns. And plus, yeah, the avoid is very, very nasty. So I just personally love that support, and it's gotten me through many of Iron Man's.
So you enjoy. So I see where you're coming from. I do think that Fear is one of those characters that I feel like if you invest in her, that moment when you get her, the chapter that you get her was actually, I feel, is intentionally designed to bring her up to speed because she comes level 1. She gains hard mode bonuses as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. We're looking at she's still no Rutger in terms of her base stats, but it is a chapter that greatly favors her because she can use those axe units to just murder them and keep getting experience upon experience. So train there is actually really good.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I mean, I don't think her stats are as high as Rutger's, but at the very least her strength is. It varies between a base of 8 or 9 depending on RNG. So she starts at level 1, so her bases aren't too far off from Rutger, who starts at level 4. It's just she has a lower growth rate than strength at 25, so you can very easily get screwed in that department. But sometimes you end up ridiculously lucky. Like one time I had a Fur who had 18th strength unpromoted, and I mean, it was an Iron Man. That was crazy.
I agree that the value of Fear in that chapter is very good, particularly the way you said it right now. Just pairing her with Rutger, I never thought about that because I usually think that she's like a stat dump at that point. Like I feel like she's an experience dump or an experience hog. She's like one of those units that, to me, why would I give her experience if I have other available units that are going to come and do a similar job, or if not, could use that experience as well, right? But I think that your point's very valid. Using her to bust up the other units that you have, or like, I didn't even think about the support pairing, because I usually just do it with Clarine and Rutger, right? But using her to actually boost them off of each other and have two incredible units, especially in the chapter that most of the units there were meant to be killed by Fear, is actually very, very valuable. So that's some good insight I never thought about. So that's an interesting take on it too.
Yeah, well, honestly, the reason I also want them both is because it makes me feel a lot more comfortable with the Iron Man, because, well, aside from the last one I was streaming where I wasn't paying close enough attention, Fear and Rutger typically do not die. And they're extremely reliable. I feel like in Binding Blade, there's a bigger gap between what's really strong and what's weak than in Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. And so Rutger and Fear can pretty much take on anything together. And like if there's two units I don't want to lose in an Iron Man, it's those two, because they're the ones that can just take me through the game. You know, they reliably double, they dodge like crazy, and because of how tanky the units get in the late game, I actually do need them to double crit to one round certain enemies, like those Wyverns. I know you can take them out with Air Caliber, but double critting with Rutger and Fear is also a good way to do it. That's why, you know, Swordmasters typically aren't great in other games. They usually only have range 1 and things like that. But because range 1 to 2 doesn't always one round in Binding Blade, I need that extra power from the critical hits.
I see. So yeah, you gotta make up for that bulk with that damage.
Yeah, so I usually shoot for, well, with the Rutger, I do like Rutger and Clarion, a B support, and Fear and Rutger and A support, and that usually leaves both Fear and Rutger between like 78 and 82% crit. And I don't know, it's just something I can rely on. It's consistent.
Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. It is a consistent strat to get through it. I personally, when I play, I'd rather take like that experience that goes into Fear and just give it to Shin, because Shin also has access to swords, but only after he promotes. But he's already level 5, so when he reaches level 10, and I think at this point you get like an Orion's Bolt that's been tossed somewhere here. You could have a Nomad that's hitting pretty hard, can also double those Wyvern Lords, right? And he's incredibly strong. Like Shin is for all intents and purposes, I feel like he's just a better suit. Like he's just the hard mode bonuses. Higher base stats, and bases are very good compared to like growth rate characters, in my opinion. So Shin is just a really good investment at that point for me.
Well, to be honest, I actually use all of the above. I love Shin. Sin or Sin, I guess as he's translated as. The thing is, though, I don't use him in every chapter because I need him to be alive. Since I'm going the Sakai route, I need him to be alive until chapter 20 side story X, so that I can get the side chapter to get the divine weapons, the Merkways, is that how you pronounce it?
Moltet?
Well, if you go the B route, you actually get the Merkways, and Yodel comes
the Mulagir.
The Mulagir, yeah, that's it. So depending on what route you go, Yoder brings the opposite weapon. And so, yeah, I do love Sin. He's really helpful on chapter 21, to put it like very lightly.
I agree. He's an incredible unit. I think that he's really not slept on, but people should take advantage of him on casual playthroughs. You know, if we're talking about LTC and stuff like that, there's usually a carry unit, and at that point, it's not going to be him because it's too late in the game. But
yeah,
and also bow locked, right? So 1-2 range, ain't really 1-2 range locked in the beginning ain't going to really be a carry unit. But for casual playthrough, I feel like Shin is in a mate. Let's look at the comparison, right? What do we get as bow units so far? We're looking at Dorothy, Wout, and that's about it. And Sue. Sue is the only one you can make an argument is good, but she's like paper thin. She comes really like she's a growth character, so there's always a risk you're gonna get a growth. Like, you know, you can always get a really good one or a bad one. But Shin, I feel like, is hard proof to avoid that. And
hard mode bonuses are really good on him.
Yeah, and Gonzalez suffers of the same thing, which is he also gets those hard mode bonuses, which in comparison to Geese makes it like who ironically you get all these guys around the same time. I feel like the Western Isles is just hard mode bonus adventure. Like, you know, you get Klein, Thea, Gonzalez, Shin, and Fear all have hard mode bonuses, and they all come in the same part of the game, which is the Western Isles, right? So,
yeah, mostly you recruit our enemies between 9 and 12.
What is your feeling on Chapter 10A versus Chapter 10B? Actually, let's go with. Let me rephrase that. What do you feel is the harder route regarding A or B, and how do you feel about both of them?
I think A is the harder route because it's a lot harder to get the villages. But the thing is, my opinions are very subjective because I just don't know the A routes as well in Binding Blade because I rarely use them for Iron Man runs. And also, my perspective is very firmly Iron Man. Fear, for example, would be a terrible unit on a low turn count run. But on an Iron Man where I'm just going to do whatever I can to survive, she's excellent.
I see.
But yeah, I see all the A routes as being harder in my opinion. And I know a lot of people, especially for the B route, for chapter 17 through 20, a lot of people feel that the A route is easier.
Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those people. I'm gonna disagree with you. Hard disagree, because I think that you're right. In the Iron Man run, the B route's probably a safer one because you can kind of turtle your way through, right?
But if you're playing either low, if you're playing like just casual, or if you're playing like not LTC but somewhat efficient, right? You want to move through the game at a good pace. I would say that Chapter 10A is much easier, and Chapter 10A and 11A are much easier for me to obtain all the side objectives. Because my perspective, I don't know if you know, but I usually play like a completionist style, right? I want to get all the houses, I want to get all the recruitments, I want to get all the characters, get all the items, try to really maximize everything I can do in the game. Almost like call it a perfect run if you want to think about it that way. And for me, obtaining that on Chapter 10B is the worst. That is by far my most hated chapter in the game. And I'll tell you why.
Really?
Yes, I loathe that chapter with a passion. The reason why is because to get to the houses up on top, you have to send people ferried over with flyers, right? Break that wall and go up through the top to hit those 2 houses with Lot and Wade, right? So you can get the items there. Also, if you go with Lot and Wade, you get different items than if you go regular. The difference, I think you get a Sword Reaver and an Icon or a Speed Wing or something like that. It's like an item that's way better than whatever you get. It's like a door key and a vulnerary or whatever. To get all
what
those
items
houses,
do you get with Lot and Wade, actually? I'm curious.
I think it is a Sword Reaver and a Speed Wing if you go with Lot and Wade to those houses.
Oh, I want that Speed Wing.
Yeah, and they're pretty good. Now, but all of that is like annoying, right? To me, it's annoying to go up through that wall. You have all these people peppering you through that corridor because they just have 2 ranges. You can take them out relatively easy if you have a strong ranged unit there. Okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now, the hardest part in this map is to complete it without killing any of the Pegasus Knights, without killing any of the archers that come with Klein, and recruiting both of those people. Because if you let them die, you don't get the Orion bolt, and you don't get the Elysian Whip that comes with the Pegasus Knights. If everybody survives, you get an Elysian Whip, Orion's bolt, all that stuff. But this would be okay if 2 things. Starters, if you talk to Thea with Shanna, she doesn't actually turn to your side. You have to actually talk to Klein first so that you can talk to her, and then she turns into green units. And then those green units will go straight for the boss and murder themselves. So you actually have to rescue everybody if you want to keep them alive. Same thing with the archers on the bottom. And to put salt on that wound, you have Gonzalez coming down from the top with these axe users that basically one-shot Lilina, so you have to put a bodyguard there so she can recruit him. And Klein only has a 50% chance of moving every other turn. So you can plan this out in such a way that you have Clarine in like a perfect position to recruit Klein if he moves on his next turn, and then he just won't move. And then you'll be stuck with all those archers in the middle climbing up, and you cannot pass it without killing an archer or risking another enemy phase turn. And it is the worst experience I have ever had in this game, is trying to get all the side objectives in that chapter. Maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I just don't know how to go about it. But it is by far and wide the worst experience for me in this game.
Yeah. Actually, I'm a little different in that I don't really care about the green units surviving, because that's just, like you said, too much of a pain. I just go for all the villages. And I didn't know that Klein actually has a 50% chance of not moving. That's an interesting tidbit that I didn't think about.
He moves every now and then, and he doesn't have a really. There's no rhyme or reason. He either moves or he doesn't. So sometimes he'll be all the way ahead, and sometimes he'll just stay behind his troops, and that's where the difficulty lies.
Yeah, it's like one turn he takes a Benadryl, and the other turn he just gets moving.
Yep, and you can see how that's annoying if you're trying to recruit him.
Yeah. I usually am able to recruit Klein pretty consistently. If the archers come up, I just outright. Oh, well, actually, that's the big difference, is that it seems like you care about keeping all the archers and Pegasi alive, whereas I don't. I will get rid of them to get to Klein. And
you're like,
Thea.
Your lives don't matter to me at all.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if they survive, but like.
But you're not gonna go out of your way. I get you.
They make really stupid moves. So like, what am I supposed to do?
No man left behind, man. You gotta save all of them. Yeah. And that is why I hate it. In comparison to Chapter 10A and 11A, 11A is much easier because I think Klein's starting position is a lot more predictable, and he can't really get to where he needs to be. Like, Clarine has more ways to access him than just that stupid hallway in the center of 10B.
True.
And as far as chapter 10A goes, that's when you get Geese, right? I think you get Geese that chapter.
Yeah, I think the difference is Geese is like an enemy in the A route, right? And he has a Brave Axe.
No, he's green.
Oh, okay, so he's still a green unit regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's like easier to recruit in the A route, right?
Yeah, you just walk up to him. He spawns like right near the village, on the top of the village.
Oh, okay.
And the village is like right in the beginning, right when you come in.
Yeah. I mean, A route does make the most sense. You get Echidna, who's a much better unit than Bartra, because she have like base 18 speed, so she can fairly reliably double for that arc of the game.
Oh yeah, and she's really good. I think Echidna is much better than Bartra too. Albeit, last time I played this, I did the B run, right? So I could experience that route a little bit. And I gotta say, I decided to do a mean build, and I went with Bartra with Armads, and man, I don't regret it. He one-shot every Wyvern he came across. Like, every... just...
Interesting. Did he have the skill to hit them?
Yeah, he would. I also think I fed him one skill book, but if you think about it, the cost of feeding him one skill book in the grand scheme of things doesn't really hurt his performance overall, because his damage output really comes from, you know, the effective damage and being able to one-shot somebody with Armads, which is where I felt was really useful. So that to me was, I did it as a meme thing, and I really enjoyed it. Also, if not, even if you don't give him Armads, right, he can use steel bows without being penalized, because he has such a high con. So he can just outright, like some of the lower Wyverns, like the ones, he can also one-shot them with a steel bow.
Yeah, you can tell he has high con because he's like huge. He's like Chris Evans big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that was just a side note.
I feel like all the chapters of the Wyvern Western Islands kind of feel the same. Like, I feel like they're so interchangeable to me that I don't really feel any different about, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like they have any uniqueness to them.
Interesting, because I actually love the map design of the Western Isles.
Oh, for real?
Both village maps, I think it's 10B for the B route, and what is it, 11A for the A route? I don't know, I think it maybe just because I have a lot of fun flying over walls with flyers, but I don't know. I love those village chapters for whatever reason. I know at least 11B can be kind of a slog because you're like going around, like you have to like go all the way west and south to recruit Bartra, and you know, well, your main force is probably going just straight south because like you want to get to like kind of like the southwestern area to recruit Bartra, whereas the main force is going directly south, like south where like the southeast part of the map is, so that you can get Geese. And I'll admit, like that part's probably not the best designed. I do like chapter 12 though, so, and I do really like chapter 9. I don't know, but my tastes are very, very subjective, and I don't know, I love the Western Isles. It's my favorite part of the game.
I mean, that's cool. I can't share the sentiment, but I respect it. I think that for me, it maybe to me, it's maybe the brown colors kind of like make it all feel the same to me. I do like the ones that have more water than that. So like the village chapters, I absolutely loathe, and I don't know if that's because I just don't have a good experience playing them because of the way I play. But the water chapters are a little better. Like chapter 10A and 11B are a little better for me. I actually don't mind 11B so much, besides that ballast day in the center that smacks people around. But like the color, it just, I don't know, it's not the most appealing part for me. I really like Ilia's the route, but we'll get there too. We have to talk about chapter 12 because that is where your current Iron Man had ended. Why? What happened?
I forgot the Dragon Killer, the Worm Slayer.
So you just left the item in the inventory?
Yeah, and I made the mistake of not bringing Merlinus on every chapter with me.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Do that. So, unfortunately, my strength characters, even Rutger and Fur, didn't have enough strength to do damage to the dragon, and I didn't have anything stronger than Iron Swords, except for that Steel Blade, which I ended up accidentally using on one of the warriors. So that's why that ended, is, I don't know, bring your Worm Slayer, I guess.
You got soft locked on the dragon.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. That's unfortunate. That's just a sad, like, that's not even, I don't feel like that's even your fault. I mean, kind of, yeah.
I should remember.
Yeah, I mean, one could argue it's totally your fault because you were playing the game, but at the same time, I feel like that's, it's not like you misplanned it. It's just it was like here's unkillable unit. You know, it felt like an episode of Fire Emblem Heroes when you fight the +10 whales.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, I still blame myself. Merlinus is a great unit because at the very least, you know, he can die and he comes back the next chapter. So, you know, he's like a free tank unit. And I really should have brought him straight up. I just made the mistake of not. And to be honest, I feel like during the time, and I'm not blaming anyone for this, but sometimes I'll admit I get a little nervous on stream and I don't want to keep people waiting too much in the preparations because I feel like they'll just get bored. And you know, when I do this on my GBA cartridge, I typically take a lot more time in the preparations, which admittedly I should have done there. Otherwise, that way I would have actually learned that I didn't have the Worm Slayer. You know, it's a lesson for next time. It's a learning experience, really.
Well, I have no doubt you're gonna pass it with no issues. Like I think the way you were going about it was great. Up until that point, there was just like a little caveat that was very annoying because you couldn't even, not even if you wanted to, could you, because of the stats on the guy, which is annoying. Yeah. But your gameplay was great up until that point. So I have no doubt you're gonna complete the Iron Man next time too. And nice. Chapter 12X is the Western Isles legendary weapon, which is Armads. We have, this chapter is annoying too. It's just like a bunch of chests and stuff. Just a reminiscent of, well, actually, I guess FE7's version is a reminiscent of this chapter.
Gotta pour out a Hector with that one.
Oh, yeah. This one has Fog of War, though, doesn't it? Or is it the 7 one that has Fog of War?
No, this one has Fog of War as well. Unfortunately, there are quite a few side chapters that have Fog of War, and this one is one of them.
Yep. I remember that well. I think Fog of War chapters are really not my favorite at all. Chapter 9 has Fog of War, if I'm not mistaken. And that one can get annoying if you don't know how to block the bridges correctly. And if you don't bring a thief. Bring
a few torches. Use those torches. Trust me, use those torches.
Absolutely. Get that experience in too. Farming up those units.
If you ever play FE5, I don't know if you're going to love the Fog of War there. Because in FE5, which introduced a lot of the common mechanics that we take for granted, it was the one that introduced alternate win conditions like escape, you know, defend, and all of that good stuff. But the Fog of War chapters, the screen is completely blank. You can't see anything. Whereas, at least in the more modern games, you can see like a silhouette of what's there, like a village. But the screen in FE5 is completely blank.
Oh, so you can't see even the outline of the map.
Well, I mean, like, you could by scrolling over, but you know how, like, in Fog of War and Fire Emblem Binding Blade, like, you can't see the units, but you can see villages, and you can see, like, the water and the land and all that?
Yeah.
You can't see any of that in Thracia 776.
Wow, that sounds not like fun, but interesting. But still, I mean, if people play it, it's probably somewhat good.
Debatable. But, I don't know, I find that, like, the stuff that causes me the most anxiety, at least when it comes to video games, when I like master it, it becomes the most fun. So
yeah, that's true. I think that there's a value in repetition, which is why I really like this series too, because you can the replay of it. I never had the same experience twice. You know what I mean? And that's really something to say.
Yep, I never got that Roy with 18 strength twice. I actually had both I had a Fear that was 18 strength unpromoted, and I had a Roy that was 18 strength unpromoted. Never got those again. That's for sure.
Those are like 1 in a million, man. Once you get them, you don't let them go.
Yeah, exactly. You know, sometimes one run you'll get a Rucker with like 17 strength at the end. Sometimes you'll get him with 24 strength. So sometimes it can be positive, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the beauty of the RNG, and also of, you know, being able to choose different units too. You never quite, like, some runs I'll play with Shin, some runs I'll do Sue, some runs I'll do March of the Brave with the Armads, you know, and that's good. It's good to know. Do I think that March of the Brave is the way to go? No, but it was fun to do it at least once.
Yeah, experiment a little. That's generally what I would think with most video games. It's very easy to go with the general consensus of what's good, but try things out. You know, it's fun to experiment, and you might find something new and possibly even better.
Yeah, I concur with that, 100%.
Yeah, like this is kind of like a side example. It's not a Fire Emblem example. If anyone out there has played Genshin Impact, a lot of people thought Sing Cho, he's like a water user who has a power where when you attack with him, his swords continually attack and do water damage. And a lot of people didn't think he was very good when the game first came out. It was only until later where they realized he's one of the best characters in the game. So it's interesting. You try things out, you go away from the crowd every once in a while, and you might learn something.
Yeah, it's true. There's always possibility for growth when you attempt to do something different.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you guys so much for watching. It has truly been a lot of fun to create and put this content out for you all. Send feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to collaborate or join a session, please reach out.
Do so in the comments or by contacting us. We can be reached at fireembros@gmail.com or on our respective Twitches in the banner link or down below. Also, just so you know, the like subscribe button is an armored unit, so go ham and hammer it. Join us next time as we continue to cover the Binding Blade in the next episode of Fire Emblem Critical Hit Review, The Etrurian Insurrection.